thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us about Bring Out the Fear. The film is screening at FrightFest as part of the First Blood selection. How are you guys feeling about the screening?
Who wants to start on that? Ali, do you want to start? Because you have tea in your mouth.
Yeah, that was really opportunity. We're very excited. It's a really good opportunity for the film. Like, it's really nice after COVID. Like, it kind of slowed it all down. We were really fortunate that we got to shoot this before our world exists the way it does now. But COVID kind of screwed up our post. So it's so nice to have it finished, which is something we didn't think even 6 months ago was like within our reach. And to then have it in the festival we wanted it to premiere exactly where we wanted to. So we feel very, very fortunate.
Yeah, it's mad to think.
#blessed.
It's mad to think though, like this time, well, yeah, I guess about this time last year, like I would have expected to have had the film well finished by this point. And then obviously the world went to hell. And I was kind of looking at, even FrightFest last year when it went digital, the film wasn't ready in time, but at the same time, I was thinking like, should I try and get it done and just kind of put it out there, or is it worthwhile holding on to? So it's really exciting that, I held on to it for that bit longer, made these kind of a few nice little changes to it, and it's able to kind of get out there, and, it's able to go to a real life audience now in FrightFest. And I mean, I'm a long time FrightFester, so it's really nice for me to be able to kind of go and show it to people that I know, or show it to an audience that I know will appreciate the film. It's the best feeling. Like,
be able to share with your peers, like it's such a lovely thing.
Yeah, and you guys, as actors, how are you feeling?
Delighted, yeah, thrilled. I'm actually heading over, so very excited to go over. Yeah, it's a great
house.
Pardon?
First time allowed out of the house.
Yeah, I know. Oh gosh. It was a great shoot, and I'm delighted that it's going to work, because I know it means a lot to Rich and Ali. They worked incredibly hard, so we're as excited as they are to be a part of the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and Richard's been talking about FrightFest since day one. I'm glad he got it. Now he can shut up about it.
Not like, would we just like rub it in, being like, you didn't get FrightFest, Rich?
No.
More now.
That's it. And as everyone will attest to, all I do is just repeat myself again and again. I mean, I'm sure these guys all felt like the last year and a half of me messaging, going like, the film's nearly done. The film's nearly done. The film's
never.
It was like, it's going to be in FrightFest. It's going to be in FrightFest. It's going to be at FrightFest. That's pretty much just me for the last. That's my story for the last year and a half.
Well, you put it out to the universe, and look, it came back.
Exactly. Yeah, you did it.
And I mean, for those that haven't read up on the film yet, in a nutshell, without giving too many spoilers away, what's the film about?
So I hate log lines. So the film is about, it's a doomed couple who go on a romantic tryst. He wants to get married, she wants to break up. Stop laughing. But basically the Woods have a different idea. So they don't realize it, but they've wandered into a forest of endless paths, never-ending daytime, and there's just something seems to be watching them and following them, whispering or cracking branches and all that, and causing a lot of nightmares. It's very, very psychological folk horror.
Where did the idea come from?
Sorry, this is quite funny, because Richard and I are married. Let's start with that. And it's only recently enough. And Richard and I have been talking about getting married because we've been together for years, like since we were basically teenagers. So we're taking the dog up for the woods, and we're talking about all these big life things happening. And Richard was like, okay, I have an idea. Couple lost in the wood, don't want to get married, go from there. And you're just kind of like, is this us? Are we lost in the wood? Married? Oh no.
But at that point, we were still probably, 12 years together, and I hadn't proposed yet. So, she was thinking like, is this just reading between the lines
and
here?
Genuinely, like when the script was coming together, because he was like, we could just do it really avant-garde, not a script. And I'm like, Richard, you cannot shoot a film without a script. You must go write a script. Like, I'm not going to let you do that. It's just not going to go well. So he starts writing the script, and I'm like, am I Rosie? Like, you think
am I you?
Am I Richard?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
That's a stand up from you, mate.
I know, but he's a horrible, horrible character.
But yeah, so that's where Richard got the idea, where we got slightly lost with the dog in the woods.
But that was it. Like the forest itself was the character, because we went for a walk around that forest, and that's how we I specifically remember us walking around and going, wow, this forest has an awful lot of sections that are just so different. And imagine if you kept walking, you just couldn't get out of there. And I mean, it's, you see that kind of thing in like Grave Encounters or Blair Witch, I mean, it's a fairly nice, it's something that's always kind of stimulated my mind. I've always really enjoyed horror that works on that level, or even The Shining has an awful lot of that with the hotel where the corridors don't make sense.
That idea of never-ending traffic.
Yeah, that was it. And then to be able to kind of plonk these characters in there, I mean, I'm a big fan of, I wanted to make a horror movie that was about like, these characters, these possibly despicable characters, if they have to be, taking a big kind of jump from say George Romero's Day of the Dead, because I think that's a great character study, and a whole load of characters who are just all of them have their flaws. Everyone's out for themselves in one way or another. And I thought that with these two characters, you can kind of see one side of the characters, or well, one of the characters might have, seem like the better character, but at the same time, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're a 100% good character. And for me, that was kind of important thing, was to make a story that it wasn't just about putting these nameless or these kind of generic characters in a forest to kind of run around and go like, it was more about having characters who had story arcs, who had, these emotions, these thoughts, they had their own agendas, they had their own misunderstandings and misgivings. And that's kind of when once Ali convinced me to actually write a script, that was where an awful lot of that stuff started coming in.
Convinced is such a nice word. It was great. The accurate description.
Nice. I mean, Ciara and Tad, for you guys, what was it about the characters that, when you read the script, you thought, yeah, I really want to, give this character a go?
I think, I worked with Rich before, and Rich contacted me with the script and just said, look here, I think this would be a really good role for you. If you want to have a little read and let me know. And I think within him sending me the script, I don't think there was quite a lot of time that passed. I was like, yes, love it all, love everything about it. I love she's so complex. There's so many layers to her, and I think it comes across the whole way through the film without giving away too much. And I love the idea of the journey she's on throughout. So for me, again, when I read it, yeah, I was blown away. And I knew, for me as an actress, all my previous roles would be kind of more girl next door. So this role was a lot more to her and a lot more meatier and grittier than I previously played. So that's why I grasped it with both hands. I was very excited. Thank you, Rich.
Well, yeah, kind of the same thing. I think Dan is also like, has a lot on his mind and is trying to do this thing right. He just can't seem to grasp the weight of his choices and his actions and his kind of. It's an interesting character because he's hopeful and romantic, but also pathetic, which is kind of it's so nice to play that. But I'm not saying it's you, Richard. But
out of the bag, Ali.
Yeah, and I really liked the relationship between the two characters. I think that's what drew me to wanting to do it. It was that they seem to have a past. It's not two characters that they just appear out of nowhere and they're in this movie. It felt like they had a past. That was nice.
I mean, did you guys have much time to develop that relationship with each other?
Oh God, no.
No.
Not really, no, yeah.
No. We literally, how long did we have when we got up to Dublin?
We said hi and then Richard said action.
Pretty much, yeah. We rehearsed for a couple of hours and then
we had a small rehearsal, yeah. But the way it was shot, it was really nice because we were walking in the woods and rehearsing our lines and kind of shooting and running all at the same time. It was really good to get to know each other in that environment and just develop the characters as we went. It was quite interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it was indeed. With the cold as well. Cold. But yeah, that's what made it more earthy and I suppose more challenging of Tad and myself. It added to the characters, the situation, to what the situation that they're in. It all shows. But yeah, it was great fun.
And I really enjoyed how Sophie's like lines and how she's reacting is pretty much like your standard FrightFest audience member when they're watching a horror film. You know, they're making those comments. You know, how much of that sort of was in the script and how much of it sort of came about as you guys were, you know, improvising and stuff?
We'd always, through every scene, we obviously we talk about how much, you know, again, talk about Rich's writing. It was perfect. There's nothing to be added from Eric.
Richard's writing perfect. Is it?
No, but then what I loved about working with you, and I've said this about you before, Rich, that you give an actor freedom as well. So if something is not translating or something is not coming across the way it should, we'll sit down and go through and go, okay, what way do you think your character should say that? What do you think? And that's what I love about working with you guys. You have that sort of freedom. But I think in this, I'm trying to think, I don't think a lot of it was, Rich, you'd know more. I don't think a lot of it was improv. There was some improv in small bits, but not overall, I don't think. But Rich.
Yeah, so things like the drinking scene, like that was all, well, actually, no, that wasn't improv, but there was an awful lot of, you know, leeway to add things into it as well. Like, I mean, my favorite line is Tad just kind of, when Ciara goes like some sort of Groundhog Day thing, and then Tad just goes, yeah, Bill Murray. And that's just like my favorite line for some reason. But that's it. When I write, I try to kind of keep things as realistic as possible. And I mean, that's come from years of trials of error. I wrote things, especially when I was a teenager, you know, you'd write these things you think are a big Kevin Smith-esque soliloquy or your Quentin Tarantino, you know, fluid dialogue. And then emo opuses, yeah, because then you hear it back out of people's mouths, people who just delivered it word for word, and you realize, oh it's my god, this is terrible. Yeah. What is wrong with me?
Like you don't know the syntax of the language, like.
That was it. So I mean, a big thing to me is, you know, if you get the right actors, that I mean, a good actor will try and take what you've written and make it work.
But, and we had great actors.
Yeah, well, that's it. So a good actor will do that, but a great actor is going to take your script and make sure that, you know, it's real for the character. And I wanted to give the guys a lot of leeway to expand on it, to change on it. And I mean,
to bring their view of what Rosie and Dan were, because like we were trying to make them as like real as possible.
Yeah, and I mean, my job is to kind of keep an eye on the overall thing. So I made sure that it didn't go off path from what we needed the story to actually stay with. And I did go through with both of the guys their backstory about things. So there's an awful lot of stuff that's not on screen that I would have talked through with them. Say in particular, the obvious one is with Ciara's character is like she's a recovering addict, and we would have talked through a fair whack of, you know, her history leading up to that, like how long her and Dan had actually been in a relationship, all this kind of thing. It's just that kind of these nice little flourishes that don't necessarily make it onto screen in the end, but they give the actors an awful lot to work with.
And you know, the story is mainly outside, which obviously means exterior shoots. You know, how was that experience? I mean, I think that somebody earlier mentioned cold, but you know, because obviously, you know,
you answer that one truthfully.
It was grand, wasn't it? You know, you didn't need to wear 3 or 4 layers of t-shirts.
Yeah, we were a little cruel in our costume design for.
Yeah, I was comfortable. I had a big nice jacket to wear, so I was good.
You didn't have the greatest shoes or socks, though. We kind of scuppered you there. But poor Ciara, when we were designing costume, constantly had always thought of mustard coat. It was just an obsession of mine. But the mustard coat was for spring, not autumn winter. It was a thing.
Irish autumn winter. Put it that way.
Like poor Ciara, I think, was wearing like 5 layers, and between every take, she was given a dressing gown, a bigger coat, a hot water
bottle.
Yeah, and a blanket, because it was cold.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
It was
really
mad
cold.
Because the hill that we were on, it's the hill you see in the film. So we started off on one side of it, and we did the first scene. The very first scenes we did was them walking into the forest and, like, you know, up in the log and things like that. The next stuff we did was after they come down from the failed proposal, and we looked at that before. We tech scouted it. It was all fine. It was all lovely. On that day, the wind just decided to be coming straight from the sea, straight into that area, freezing poor Ciara. Yeah. I actually, there was a thought, I was thinking like, oh my God, this is day one. Is she going to just go like, lads, this is ridiculous. I can't do this.
It was so cold. We were concerned she was just going to turn around and vomit and pass out. And it's like, well, we won't be using this scene. No fault of her own.
Well,
I actually remember that day so well, just that day.
Yeah.
Whatever way we're standing, the wind, and I remember the sound, you couldn't hear it because the wind was so strong, and you're trying to catch your breath, but you can't. So you're But it added to the effect.
That was it. In general, we got very lucky with it because, like you say, it was pretty much all outdoors. There was one day we got rained out of it, and I remember that kind of came.
That was on the afternoon though. We got the morning in, which was really handy.
Yeah, well, that was it. We realized we wouldn't be able to shoot anymore, but at that point, we kind of decided to regroup about a few things, because one of the big things about the shooting schedule on this is that I decided to be very over optimistic with what we would do. I think initially, at one point, I was trying to do the entire film in 5 days, which was never going to happen. So I think by the time
this is like the clocks have just changed, so it gets dark at 4:30 and it like gets bright at 8:30 in the morning. And Richard was like, "We can do this in 5 days." And I'm like, "It's a predominantly outside, Richard. We need like the light from 9 till 3." And he's like, "No, 5 days." And I'm like, "We're not going to do it."
Yeah.
But sure, try.
But, like, and we only really lost it one day, and the weather did these mad things though. Like, the film has its own character because of it, because there's that one section in the middle where the guys have the argument, and I'm not going to get spoilery, but like, you know, you have those lovely shots down in trees with all the mist around, and everything feels very dark and heavy. I mean, you could spend a lot of money trying to recreate that thing, but to be able to have that just naturally happen because it just so happened to be the way that the rain was hitting the forest that day, you know, that kind of stuff just makes the film. It kind of gives it a certain beauty that you just can't buy.
That was coincidentally also Halloween Day, which I thought was very
very appropriate.
Yeah. A blessing. Or a curse. I don't know which.
I mean, obviously, you know, the film is obviously set in the woods. You know, horror has a long history with the woods. What do you guys think it is about, you know, about these places that sort of inspires this innate fear in us all?
Did I start?
I think it's the feeling of the unknown. It's just the fear of what you can't see, what you can't grasp. You know, if you're lost and you're in a place you don't know, it's just like every creak and every little noise is gonna scare the hell out of you. It happens when you're in a place, like in a house you don't know, and you hear a creak that it's unfamiliar, and you're like, what the hell is that? But then when it's the forest and it's never ending, it could be any sort of creatures in there, you know. I have fear of, like, I have a deep fear of the ocean because you can't know what's in there. Like, the vast majority of the ocean is unexplored and no one knows what's down there. But I think the forest is kind of like the ocean but on land. It's that sort of thing.
That was my answer. No. I think the exact same thing, the fear of the unknown and spiders, just full stop. That's it. And that was my one fear, and you guys will laugh. Do you remember if we were lying down and if I saw a spider, I was gone. So I'm sure I ruined quite a few shots by screaming, "Spider on me." Sorry, Rich.
But even with that fear of the unknown, like, I can tell you, when I went up into that forest an awful lot myself to just sort of scout it all out, and there was plenty of times I got lost along the way on the way back, and it ended up being a very Blair Witch situation where I'm walking in the forest and it's just on pitch black, and I have little videos of myself going like, "If I don't make it out of here, just remember."
Which was bizarre.
The snot coming out of your nose. Like.
Really with me.
This is this like forest is like 5 minutes away from my family home. So I grew up in this woods. This woods is not scary to me. Like, so I'm like, oh yeah, no, it's really easy to find your way around. Like, you can't get lost in my head. So like, I really have to suspend my belief.
Well, I got lost, but even when I was out there though, it wasn't so much. I knew I'd eventually find my way back to the car park, but it was more, now that it's dark and there's no other people around, you know, what is around here? Like, you see all the holes. So say in the film, when he pulls the bottle of wine out of the hole, like, I mean, that's most likely a badger hole. So it's like, what are all these different creatures that are in the forest that we just don't see because it's daytime, there's people around. So when you get there at night, or when you're down to like 1 or 2 people, you know, does nature suddenly come out and show itself properly? You know, does it show the reason why it's going to outlast all of us?
Yeah, definitely outlast us.
I mean, FrightFest pass holders are, as you'll know, are trying to work out what they're going to watch and when. What are they going to get from this film that they might not get from some of the other films that are on offer this year?
Well, they're absolutely going to get a poster of the film. You won't get that from another one. But no, I think it's my favorite thing of FrightFest tends to be the discovery screens, because you see an awful lot of films that you wouldn't get to see otherwise. And I see some of the lineup, especially of things like the New Blood Strand, or things like there's just an awful lot of great films in the discovery screen that I'm very excited to see. And it's the kind of film that you won't get to see in the multiplex. You won't get to see, most likely most of these films won't end up on Netflix or something like that. They won't be readily available. And an awful lot of people will might dismiss them because they don't have the big star names or anything like that. And they might kind of sideways catch it when it's online at some point. And you just miss out on that entire experience of this film that's been crafted by people who have put a passion into it that they couldn't, again, you couldn't pay for the passion for it. They've made these films that when you see it in that environment, in the big screen with the surround sound going on, that it's not going to be experienced like that again. It's not going to be something that people will be going to an anniversary screening of or anything like that. It's a real unique experience. And this one in particular, I think, was made, well, I made it for a real sort of sensory deprivation way almost, because I'm a big believer in good sound in a film, or really putting a lot of subtle things in there. I spent an awful long time playing around with the sound, and even with the delays because of COVID, we got to do a few cool things. Like I got to reach out to people and get people to contribute the whispers to the film. So basically, there's an awful lot of those whispers are done by FrightFesters, and that's something that I think is absolutely amazing, to be able to have people be a part of the film. And again, for me, that's a huge thing. I think for both of us, is that making films, it should be more about our passion and what we're enjoying doing with it, and what really means an awful lot. It's
like communal project. Like you
Yeah.
always have like a director and a producer, but I think like the whole idea of like collaboration and art through collaboration is so important to both of us, and like especially with this film. Richard and I got the chance to collaborate with a lot of people in like a really nice communal way. And I think the unique thing about this film is like it's just very tense throughout the entire film. So if you enjoy being really tense and feeling quite awkward, then come see this film, because that's what it is. Like, in tension horror films are always my favorite, because like there's nothing worse than feeling tense, and then like having that moment of relief at the end of the film. And I feel that this one achieves that personally to me, and I've seen it like 100 times now. I still get tense.
Yeah, it'd be great for someone to watch it not knowing at all what the film's about, just sitting down, watching it, sort of trying to figure out what way is this going, and okay, I see what way it's going. It's going to do this, and then it takes a left turn from that. And I think that it's just a unique experience that's really locked into the festival side of things, onto the big screen side of things, and I'm excited about people getting to see it like that.